Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever wondered whether he's actually into you, not just playing games, not just being nice, then listen closely. Because no matter how hard he tries to act cool, there are certain flirty behaviors men simply can't hide when they truly want you. These signs aren't loud, they're hidden in his eyes, his tone, his vulnerability, and once you learn to spot them, you'll never be confused again. Stay with me. This might just change the way you see every man who's ever crossed your path. When someone is truly interested in you, their actions begin to speak in ways their words never could. You may not hear grand declarations or poetic confessions right away, but you'll notice a shift in how they show up. Almost unconsciously, it's in the lean of their body when you're talking, the way they angle themselves towards you in a room full of people. And it's how they remember the tiniest details you mentioned casually, days or even weeks ago, as if those moments were more important to them than you realized. You don't have to guess how they feel, because their presence makes it clear. Even when they think they're being subtle, their attention lingers longer than necessary, and their responses are never rushed. These aren't calculated moves, they're natural reactions they can't help but express. When someone is truly drawn to you, their instincts start revealing the truth before they even realize it. The small, everyday gestures, the way they light up when you enter the room, how they make time, even when they're busy, become undeniable signs of their interest. What's important is not what they say, but how they make you feel when you're around them. The real signals of attraction live in the moments that most people overlook. For example, the slight pause they take before answering your questions, not because they don't know what to say, but because they want to say it right. You'll find they're more present when you talk, not distracted or rushing to share their own story. They listen in a way that makes you feel understood, even if you haven't fully figured out what you're trying to say. You'll notice how they smile not just with their lips, but with their eyes, as if your happiness directly fuels their own. These aren't the moves of someone trying to impress you. These are the involuntary actions of someone who is affected by you. They may fidget more when you're around, or suddenly become more aware of how they're dressed or how they sound. It's all unconscious, but it's real. Even their silence becomes filled with meaning, like they're trying to hold on to the moment just a little longer. These behaviors speak louder than compliments, and they carry more weight than charm. You see, attraction has a language all its own, and it doesn't rely on smooth talk or dramatic gestures. It shows up in how someone prioritizes you, even when there's no visible reward in it for them. When they make small sacrifices of time or effort, you can tell they're not doing it for recognition. They're doing it because they want to. That kind of motivation can't be faked. They go out of their way to add value to your day, to be helpful without expecting praise. They care if you're okay, even if you haven't told them you're not. They start to anticipate your needs, or at least they're curious enough to ask. These subtle choices become habits when feelings are real. And the best part? They don't even realize they're doing it. It's just how they begin to move when they're emotionally invested. There's no performance, no scripts, just genuine effort, rooted in a connection they feel but haven't fully articulated. Sometimes you'll notice that they look for excuses to interact with you, even when there's no real reason to. They send that extra message, ask that unnecessary question, or appear at events they'd normally skip. These aren't random coincidences. They're unconscious attempts to stay in your orbit, to be closer, to feel connected. People often assume flirtation is about witty banter or bold moves, but true interest rarely wears such obvious clothing. More often, it's about effort disguised as coincidence. They offer help you didn't ask for, show concern when you least expect it, and seem unusually tuned in to your moods. This is when you start realizing that the person isn't just present, they're attuned. That kind of awareness isn't accidental. It grows when someone has been quietly watching, listening, and feeling drawn to you without fully understanding why. They're not chasing a reaction, they're drawn to your energy. As this connection deepens, you'll notice they begin to change how they communicate with you. Their messages are warmer, more thoughtful, and they don't disappear for hours without explanation. They may not always say the perfect thing, but their sincerity is unmistakable. You might catch them going back to something you said earlier, showing you they're not just listening, they're remembering. They want you to feel seen, even if they don't quite know how to say it out loud. They'll create space for you to speak and never try to dominate the conversation. And when you're silent, they'll hold it with you, rather than rushing to fill the gap. These shifts happen not because they're trying to impress you, but because something about you matters to them. That mattering becomes their motivation, and even when they try to hide it, their behavior will reveal the truth. Another revealing sign is how they act when others are around. Do they try to subtly impress you? Do they include you in the conversation even when they're talking to someone else? Watch how they treat you when the spotlight isn't on you. Real attraction isn't just about one-on-one moments. It's about how you're elevated in their world. They'll make sure you're comfortable in a group, check in with you even when they're busy, and occasionally glance your way as if they need that silent reassurance. These are the kinds of instincts you can't train. They're born from emotional investment, not romantic strategy. It's the unspoken priority they give you that speaks volumes. When they're truly into you, you'll feel that sense of being protected, looked after, and gently guided, all without them announcing it. Over time, you may notice they mirror you in subtle ways. The way you speak, your posture, or even your facial expressions. This isn't mockery, it's a deeply subconscious form of connection. People naturally mirror those they feel emotionally aligned with. It's as if their body is trying to stay in rhythm with yours. You'll also see that their pace slows when they're around you. They walk with you, not ahead. They let you finish your thoughts, not jump over them. This synchronization isn't forced, it just happens. It's one of the clearest signs that someone is no longer just observing you, they're feeling something for you. And when that happens, everything about how they move, speak, and react starts to shift. One of the most overlooked signs is when someone becomes genuinely curious about your world. They don't just ask basic questions, they want to go deeper. They ask why you think the way you do, what shaped your beliefs, what scares you, excites you, makes you feel alive. They're not interviewing you, they're trying to understand you. That level of curiosity can't be faked, and it certainly can't be taught. It arises when someone realizes your presence impacts them in ways they can't fully explain. They want to explore who you are, not to control you, but to connect with you. This kind of emotional inquiry is one of the most meaningful forms of flirting, because it respects your depth and seeks something real. If you ever question whether someone is into you, don't look at the big moments. Look at the patterns, the consistent behavior, the repeated acts of care, consideration, and attentiveness. Anyone can pull off one romantic gesture, but it takes real feeling to keep showing up in small, meaningful ways over time. They may not use perfect words or know how to label their emotions, but their presence says everything. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. It's not about being bold, it's about being there. The truth is always in the effort, especially the kind that looks like second nature. So trust what you observe, even if it's subtle. That's where the truth lives. Because at the end of the day, someone who is truly interested in you won't need to shout it from rooftops. Their quiet, persistent actions will speak far louder than words ever could. They may not always have the right timing or the perfect delivery, but the sincerity in their attention is unmistakable. You'll feel their presence even in the smallest things, in the way they ask how your day really went, in the way they remember how you like your coffee, in how they check in without a reason. These are the signs that someone isn't just curious about you, they're drawn to you. And once you learn to listen to those details, You'll stop chasing words and start trusting behavior. That's where real connection begins. When someone remembers the little things you say, it's not just a sign of a good memory, it's a reflection of how much attention they're paying to you. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. But when someone listens and remembers your words days or weeks later, that's a whole different level of connection. It shows you that your voice isn't just noise in the background, it's something they value. Whether it was a passing comment about your favorite book, a story from your childhood, or a goal you whispered with uncertainty, they took it in, and more importantly, they held on to it. That kind of remembrance isn't accidental, it's intentional. It means your thoughts left an imprint on them, and in that, you begin to feel not only heard, but understood. There's a deep emotional intimacy in being remembered for who you are, not just for what you show. When someone brings up something you shared earlier, it creates a bridge between moments, building emotional continuity. That bridge tells you, I was present when you spoke, and I cared enough to hold on to it. That's powerful in a world where most conversations are surface level and fleeting. When you mention a challenge you're facing and they ask you about it later, you realize they weren't just being polite, they were truly invested. Remembering is one of the most underrated ways to show love. It's not about dramatic gestures, it's about consistent awareness. It reveals that your words had weight. And when someone treats your voice with that kind of respect, you start to feel seen in a whole new way. Many people speak, but not everyone feels heard. And when you do feel heard, something shifts. You soften, you open, you begin to trust the space that's being created. Because it's not just about the words, it's about the emotion behind them. When someone brings up something you mentioned in passing, it often catches you off guard, but in the best way. It makes you pause and think, wow, they actually cared enough to remember that. It's in these moments that emotional connection deepens, not because of intensity, but because of thoughtfulness. That thoughtfulness builds safety, and when you feel safe, you let down walls you didn't even know you had. Real listening does that. It creates room for authenticity. Listening is not about staying quiet until it's your turn to speak. It's about absorbing the meaning behind the words. It's about remembering the story behind someone's silence or the reason behind their smile. And when someone remembers, it means they were paying attention, not just to your words, but to you, to your tone, your emotion, your energy. That kind of attention is rare, especially in a world that moves fast and listens poorly. But when it happens, it changes how you feel about the relationship. It's no longer just interaction, it's connection. You start to feel valued, like what you say has worth. And that value is not measured by how loud you are, but by how deeply you're heard. The impact of being remembered is long-lasting. It shows up in small moments that feel incredibly big, like when you mention a specific dream or plan, and weeks later someone asks, "How's that going?" Suddenly, you realize your life matters to them beyond the surface. They're tracking your journey, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely care. That kind of consistency creates emotional reliability. You begin to believe that someone isn't just present now, but might actually stick around. And in a world where people are used to being forgotten, that's a beautiful surprise. It makes you feel cherished, not because of how loud you were, but because of how attentively they listened. Real connection begins when your inner world is remembered. Remembering someone's words also reflects emotional intelligence. It shows empathy, curiosity, and care. It's one thing to acknowledge someone's emotions in the moment. It's another to revisit them days later with the same compassion. That's what makes remembering so meaningful. It's not a reaction, it's a reflection. It means someone took the time to hold space for what you shared. They didn't just nod and move on. They made your thoughts part of their emotional landscape. That level of awareness creates trust because it says, I see you, not just today, but always. And when someone can carry your words with them, It means they've made space for you in their heart, not just in conversation, but in memory. Being remembered builds emotional momentum. It's the thread that weaves small conversations into lasting bonds. Every time someone revisits something you said, they're adding another stitch to the emotional fabric between you. It's how stories grow, how trust deepens, and how closeness is formed. You no longer feel like a momentary presence, you feel like a meaningful one. And that feeling becomes a quiet foundation for deeper emotional safety. Over time, you find yourself sharing more, not because you're seeking validation, but because you trust that your words will be held with care. That's what remembering does. It invites more truth, more depth, more connection. And those are the things that make a relationship feel alive. When someone makes the effort to recall something personal, it also shows respect. It says, what matters to you matters to me. That's not something you can fake. Remembering someone's words requires being fully present in the moment. It requires focus, empathy, and a desire to know someone beyond the surface. And when you receive that kind of attention, it changes how you see yourself. You feel more valuable, more interesting, more worthy of care. It reminds you that you're not too much or too little. You're exactly right for someone who is truly paying attention. That awareness heals wounds that come from being overlooked. It restores confidence that your voice does in fact matter. The smallest things can become the biggest moments when they're remembered. A comment about your childhood pet, a story about your worst day, a dream you were too afraid to chase. When someone holds on to those things and brings them up later, it's not coincidence, it's care. It's emotional investment without a spotlight. And in those quiet callbacks, you begin to feel something powerful. Safety. The safety to show up as you are, without needing to filter or shrink yourself. That's when the connection moves from temporary to lasting, from light interest to real presence, because anyone can listen for a moment. But remembering, that requires staying emotionally present even when you're not around. And that's what real care looks like. In the end, being remembered is about being valued. It tells you that you're not just passing through someone's life. You're part of their emotional world. Your thoughts matter, your words linger, your presence stays even after the conversation ends. That feeling is priceless. It builds a kind of emotional gravity, something that pulls you closer, not out of pressure, but out of mutual respect. It's in the remembering that you find reassurance. Not just that someone hears you, but that someone wants to hear you and wants to keep hearing you again and again. That's the essence of emotional connection. Not in what's said once, but in what's held on to, in what's never forgotten.
When someone says they want to see you, it's more than a simple statement. It carries intention, vulnerability, and emotional risk. In a world where words are often thrown around loosely, this particular phrase has weight. It means time is being carved out just for you, not because of obligation, but desire. It reflects a genuine interest in your presence, not just your replies. This isn't about checking a box or fitting you into a packed schedule. It's about choosing connection. The desire to spend time together is one of the clearest indicators of emotional investment. It shows that your energy, your company, and your essence are being missed. You're not just someone they talk to, you're someone they want to be with. That longing speaks louder than compliments ever could. Time is the most valuable currency we have. People spend it where their priorities lie. So when someone actively makes space for you in their day, that's a signal of value. It's easy to say nice things through a screen, but creating moments in the real world, that takes effort. It means you're not just a convenient option, you're someone worth planning for. Wanting to see you isn't about boredom or routine, it's about emotional gravity. It's about wanting your energy close, to feel your presence beyond text or call. In a time when ghosting and distractions are common, someone wanting to be physically near you is powerful. It strips away the fluff and shows raw intent. It says,
I choose to bring you into my real life. And that choice says everything. There's a certain kind of courage in expressing the desire to be with someone. It requires honesty, vulnerability, a willingness to hear no and still ask. So when someone tells you they want to see you, it's not just romantic, it's brave. It reflects emotional availability. It shows they're not afraid of real connection, of showing up in a space that goes beyond words. Because words can protect, but presence exposes. It brings emotions to the surface. Eye contact, shared silence, the way someone smiles at your stories, all of it becomes real in person. And that realness can't be faked. Saying, "I want to see you," is a subtle invitation to intimacy. It's a way of saying, "I want to know you, not just your update." That's rare and deeply telling. Consistency is where desire meets integrity. It's easy for people to say they want to see you, but the ones who follow through, that's who reveals the truth.